In today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast, we are joined by Locked On Knicks host Alex Wolfe, where he'll be asking me questions to get a perspective from the Pistons fan base for this upcoming series between the Pistons and the Knicks. This is part one, part two coming to you guys soon. Stay tuned for today's episode, Locked On Pistons podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Ku Khahil. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the Locked On Network since 2021. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. We're going to get right into today's episode. Today is going to be an interview with Locked On Knicks host Alex Wolfe. He'll be asking me any question that he has to get a Pistons perspective on things. That's part one. Part two will be dropping on Thursday, where it's just roles reversed. I'll be asking him questions to get a Knicks perspective. We'll have a lot of episodes coming with these our two podcasts crossing over, obviously, with this playoff series happening. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay safe out there. Go Pistons. I hope you guys enjoy it.
All right, it's round one crossover time, and I am Alex Wolfe from Locked On Knicks. He's Ku Khahil from Locked On Pistons. I will be playing the role of the examining attorney here, and you will be playing the role of witness here, Ku. I'm going to give you the interrogation of what's up with the Pistons, because I think that this is a really intriguing first-round series between the Knicks and Pistons. And we may as well not waste any time and just get right into it and give the people what they want here. So, number one question that I'll say, we'll start softball. What do you think is the biggest advantage the Pistons could have over the Knicks in this series?
So first of all, it is going to be a fun series. Looking forward to it. I can't wait to see how it plays out. The Pistons, obviously, they've had a remarkable season for whatever expectations anyone had for them. So, no matter what happens, I think the Pistons are walking away with their head held high, but they're definitely walking into this series feeling like they have a chance to pull the upset off here. But I think most Pistons fans would probably say that they believe that they have the advantage when it comes to the physicality within the series. I think the way in which they play defense, they've been one of the top defenses in the entire NBA since January 4th. That physicality with Jalen Brunson, with Ausar Thompson, with Isaiah Stewart, with Ron Holland, even Cade Cunningham playing with more physicality this year. I think a lot of Pistons fans would say they just have more, they'll be more physical than the Knicks, and they believe they have to have this game or all these games play out in the mud and kind of just win in the trenches, for a lack of a better term there. So I think that for sure will probably be the first thing that most people would say the Pistons have, or at least they believe they have an advantage in over the Knicks this series.
It's actually interesting because I keep hearing that too. I keep hearing the physicality being the thing. And yet the thing that scares me the most, and maybe we'll get into this a little more when, we flip things in the next episode, or depending on how you air these, the previous episode. And it's, you asking me questions, but the thing that probably scares me the most about the Pistons is the fact that they have shooters on this team now. And the fact that like the Knicks sometimes have communication problems as far as rotating on shooters and stuff like that. I feel like that scares me personally more than the physicality thing, just for some reason. Like, I think that the Knicks have good rebounders. They have good physical defenders when they need them. To me, I feel like that gap maybe isn't quite as big, but I guess we'll see as the series goes. But like, to me, I know that that's a rep that the Pistons are working really hard to like cultivate, because that's sort of Detroit basketball, and it always has been. And I think I just think it's been a little overstated, the drop off in terms of physicality and like the intangible toughness, so to speak, with the Knicks so far.
Yeah, I mean, so that's something that I've went back and forth with on my channel quite a bit lately. Because I know a lot of the older fans and a lot of people within Detroit like the whole we're more physical, we're going to fight, like all that kind of stuff. I have always been indifferent to that kind of thing. I'd rather like people talk about the Pistons basketball wise and talk about how much better they've gotten basketball wise, rather than just say, "Oh, these are the bad boys. They're going to beat you up." Because I don't feel like that. I feel like that's kind of a backhanded compliment. I've always felt like it's kind of a backhanded way of saying, "Oh, they're not that skilled, but they'll beat you up and you might lose that way." I've never really been a huge fan of that. I do like the point you brought up though, because I like the Knicks in this last game against the Pistons. Now, obviously, they didn't have OG in this game, and Josh Hart, but in this last game, they didn't double Cade nearly as much within this game. They stunted at him a lot. They let him go after his mismatches that he, against Jalen Brunson, against whoever it was he was going against. And they would, like I said, they would stun at him. They'd play a little aggressive at the nail, but they wouldn't send full out doubles at him or trap him as much. And it seemed like he had his way, especially in the second half, and went crazy. In the third game, though, the one before this one, the Knicks did try to trap him quite a bit, especially in that second half. And it led to Malik Beasley and THJ kind of ending the game for the Knicks in that fourth quarter. So I know that there's been a few, we're recording this on the 15th right now. I know there were some quotes that came out today from Jalen Brunson, from Tom Thibodeau, basically saying you can't guard Cade any one way. You can't give him the same coverage over and over. And Jalen Brunson came out and said you probably don't want to play one-on-one with him. I'm interested to see how the Knicks choose to guard him, because if you do guard him in single coverage and let him go after mismatches, I do think he can take advantage of that. But like you said, if you do trap him, the Pistons do have some good short roll passers in Jalen Duren and Ausar Thompson, who they're able to make that. If Cade gets the ball out of his hands quick, as we saw in the third game against the New York Knicks, I think Karl-Anthony Towns got hurt at the beginning of that one, or it was the second one. I forget which one that one was. Actually, no, Cat was there because he closed down Malik at the end in that right corner. But if you trap Cade, then he's getting the ball out early. Now you got two shooters on the weak side. One person's guarding both of them, and you got THJ and Malik Beasley that potentially could blood you out the game. So that's where I'm interested in seeing how the Knicks decide they want to guard Cade. Is it going to be one-on-one with OG or Mikal? Are they going to want to play higher at the level? Are they going to play drop? Are they going to trap? Are they going to blitz him, get the ball out of his hands? Are they going to dare someone else to beat them in the second half? Or are they going to say, we'll close off everything else and let Cade try to beat us? I'm interested to see, because I think we've saw multiple coverages from the Knicks just this past season, how they want to guard Cade.
Yeah, it's going to be a big question from my perspective too, for how the Knicks go after that. But in the interest of fitting in as much as we can into this episode, we'll maybe save that for when you ask me a few questions, because I've got some thoughts on that. Okay. But my next question, what do you think is the thing that could go the most wrong for Detroit in this series? If you're looking at this and you're saying this might be the thing that sinks them, what do you think it is?
So there's two things that immediately come to mind, and it's by far for me at the very top of this list, that if this does not go the Pistons' way, they could lose in 5 games in this series if this doesn't go their way. Because I'm sure we'll get into this at a certain point. The way the Pistons have played for 50 games and their numbers over the last 50 games make you believe that they are on the same level as the Knicks. But the Knicks are way more talented. They're a way more talented team. They have more depth. They have more star power, for way more. So if the Pistons don't hit on these things, they could sink them. They could just get out-talented, out-starred, and it would just be bad. First thing is Ausar Thompson cannot get in foul trouble against Jalen Brunson. If Jalen Brunson, who is fantastic at drawing fouls, who's been a superstar in the playoffs, we've seen him have crazy games, including 3 straight 40 games to close out the Sixers last year. He's been phenomenal in the playoffs. So if the Pistons' best wing defender, and one of the best wing defenders in the entire NBA, in Ausar Thompson, if he gets into foul trouble early and he has to come out the game, and now the Pistons are guarding Jalen Brunson with Malik Beasley, THJ, Dennis Schroeder, if those are the guys they're not having to guard Jalen Brunson with, it could get ugly early. So Ausar Thompson has to stay in the game. He cannot pick up ticky-tack fouls. He cannot pick up dump fouls. They need him on the floor as much as possible to guard Jalen Brunson, to avoid switching, get over the screens, the screen navigation he's had all year. Stop and avoid the switching like Jalen Brunson would like to get on maybe, like I said, Malik Beasley or THJ. You need him on the floor. So if he gets in foul trouble, it's going to be tough. The other thing is, that's probably equally as important as this, is kind of like what we just hit on. The Pistons' weakness within the half court is they don't have a secondary creator, really. They have an amazing initiator. They have an amazing primary guy, but they don't really have a secondary shot creator. Malik Beasley's had a great year, but that's primarily feasting off of others' gravity. That's primarily catch and shoot. It's not like he's out there creating his own advantages or creating his own, the team's own advantages within the half court, and then they're feeding off of that. He's feeding off of Cade's gravity, the sets they run for him, off-ball screens, DHOs. That's how he's scoring. Jalen Duren, he's feasting on lobs, putbacks, those kind of opportunities from Cade Cunningham. Even Ausar Thompson, same thing in the short roll, cuts, alley-oops, those kind of things. All of the Pistons offense really comes from, at the core of it, Cade Cunningham. And Ausar Thompson has shown at times that he's capable of handling some secondary playmaking in the half court, I should say. But the Pistons have shown that they're not always confident to allow him to do that as much. So if they don't allow Ausar to do it much, they don't really have anyone else that can really break down a defense, be an instant paint touch, kick out if the defense helps, and kind of get the defense in rotation. So if the Knicks do decide, which I think they probably, I'm interested to see what they do, but if they do decide to trap Cade and to say, Cade, you're not beating us, do the Pistons have shooters that can shoot them out the game? Potentially. But could they also just suffer from a lack of creation that if you get the ball out of Cade's hands, no one else will be able to create an advantage? 100%. That certainly could be what the Pistons' downfall is. And their half-court offense hasn't been that great all year. Their offense has been led by their transition, fast break, their defense flowing into fast break opportunities. Half-court-wise, that has kind of plagued them a little bit. So those two things I would say would be the pick. If you told me the Pistons lost in 5 games, I would immediately assume that it was one of those reasons why they fell short. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about it. When was the last time you had an emergency service? If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. That's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications all through an app on your phone or computer. My favorite feature, the shared inbox. Your team can jump into any conversation without missing a beat. And the AI called transcripts and summaries save you time on follow-ups. And sure, you never lose track of customer interactions. OpenPhone is offering my listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's openphone.com/lockedonnba. And if you're switching from another service, OpenPhone will even port your existing numbers over at no extra charge. OpenPhone. No missed calls, no missed customers with OpenPhone. Then I got to tell you guys about another one of our sponsors, Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple. It's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. If you already have a console, you can still get a Fire TV Stick 4K device. It's more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started today with Amazon Fire TV.
So those are intriguing, but to go a little more cliche, the thing that I was looking at, and the thing that I've been kind of, I don't know, maybe assuaging my doubts with over the course of the last few days since this playoff matchup was set. The thing that I keep looking at is this is a young team. It's a very young team. It's a team that is relying a lot on, as you said, like Cade Cunningham, who's early 20s, on Ausar Thompson, who's fantastic, but again, like a younger player, hasn't gone through the rigors of the playoffs yet. Jalen Duren, also very young, very talented, but someone who has not seen anything like playoff NBA basketball yet. That said, obviously a lot of what helped this turnaround happen was some of the veteran talent they brought in, Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, Dennis Schroeder, all these guys that they've brought in are like established NBA players with varying levels of resumes at the highest level in the playoffs, and guys that have, been part of winning in the playoffs. Do you think is there any part of you that is worried a bit about just how these guys respond to the bright lights of the postseason? Like, not to, I use that term. It's that was sort of a shot at the Cavs their first time, and then when they played the Knicks, and it was Jared Allen with the lights were too bright quote, but kind of similar vibes. Like it's a young team. I think they've got a lot going for them, and like you said, the numbers paint them as a really elite team this back half of the season. But is there a part of you that worries a bit about just the age factor and these guys going into their first postseason together?
I mean, 100%. I mean, experience, I think, is pretty valuable in the playoffs, obviously. You can have veterans like you mentioned, Tobias, Malik, THJ, all these guys. But the core of these guys, the guys that are really pushing this team forward, have never been here. And you never know how players are going to respond in the playoffs. I mean, if you go, I remember watching Thinking Basketball, I think it's Ben Taylor, video last year talking about, going through history and looking at playoff performers and what's the trajectory or the trend of playoff performances. And a lot of time, the most often thing that happens is guys slightly dip in their performance because the playoffs gets harder, it slows down, defense gets tougher, it gets more physical. So it's natural to see some guys falter a little bit. And then the really truly elite guys, that there's only a select few per year that actually can elevate in the playoffs. And those guys are the ones that we remember as legends, obviously. And Jalen Brunson, I think, has proven to be someone who elevates in the playoffs. His performances, not only with the Knicks, but the last half of his career or the last season of his career with the Mavs, he's been fantastic in the playoffs. I mean, I just spoke about it a few minutes ago. I mean, last year, 3 straight 40-point games against the Sixers to close them out. He's been fantastic in the playoffs. So he's proven that he is a playoff riser. Now, I am interested to see if he is actually 100% coming off this ankle sprain that he's been dealing with. We'll see. Obviously, I'd like to see everyone at 100%. I don't think anyone wants to see anyone less than 100% when teams go against each other, but I'm interested to see if he is. But like, Cade has walked into Madison Square Garden and had some of his best performances over the last few years, especially this year at Madison Square Garden. It's a little different, though, when playoffs come around. A little bit more celebrities come around, a little bit more spotlights on you. You never know. Like, do I expect Cade to be a playoff riser? Yeah, I think his game suits well for the playoffs. Do we know that for a fact? No. I mean, this is his first playoff series. We've seen all kinds of stars struggle in their first playoff series, their first time in the playoffs. So do we know for a fact that Cade's going to show up and play really well? We don't. We don't know that. I feel pretty confident saying Brunson will. We don't know if Cade will. We don't know if Ausar will. We don't know if we don't know if Duren will. We don't know if all these young guys in the Pistons will. So if they play to their potential and they play how they've been playing, I think they have a shot. But like you mentioned, playoff basketball is very different. You don't have the experience. And as I've said multiple times in the podcast myself, in the playoffs, it feels like each possession is 2 times more important. Like in the regular season, you can get away with the possession here, possession there, and you'll be fine. In the playoffs, a key turnover could kill you. A key missed shot, a key missed assignment defensively, a missed rotation. Just one could ruin your playoff series hopes. It could be over. And teams with more experience seem to be more accustomed and able to adjust to that and prepare for something like that. Whereas a young team may miss something like that. So it definitely could come up to bite them. We'll see. You only find out by experience, by actually going through it. But yeah, for sure. That definitely, I think, has to be a concern for the Pistons.
Well, to be fair to your Freudian slip there with Cat in there, I mean, I think even Knicks fans with a 10-year career under his belt are still not totally sure what we're going to get out of Cat either in this series, because his playoff career has been up and down. So sometimes you can even have a 10-year career with multiple playoff appearances and you still aren't quite sure what's going to be coming out of any given player in the playoffs. I want to go to a thing that's been sort of a thing that I've seen pop up on both sides here. So Duren and Stewart, to me, are the only 2 guys that I think you could reasonably call like bigs on Detroit. Like they're the 2 guys that you would consider like a more traditional center type, the large bodied, like, I mean, neither of them are 7 feet, but like guys that would hang with that general demographic of player. So there's been some talk, and this is something that fans have been bringing up, that Gavin and I have brought up, that even the reporters were asking Tibbs about today. There's been some talk of possibly finally deploying the mythical 2 big lineup of Cat and Mitchell Robinson in this series. that it could potentially be an X factor for the Knicks because Detroit might not have the size to combat those two guys playing together at once. The thing is, they have not played that many minutes together. I think it's only like 90 possessions per cleaning the glass. I looked it up before this, that Mitch and Cat have shared together. But if the Pistons do end up having to counter that, I looked into it as well, and it seems to me, unless I ran my filters wrong, that Duren and Stewart have only played about 20 possessions together the entire year as well. So this is not, it's sort of uncharted territory for both sides. I would say it's more likely that the Knicks would throw that punch and the Pistons would potentially have to throw that counter punch than the other way around, just because of spacing and the fact that, like, I can't see why, unless it was retaliatory, that you'd want to have both of your pure bigs out there at the same time, unless you thought it was absolutely necessary and you're getting absolutely crushed on the boards or something and felt like you needed that presence out there. So what is your confidence level in, if the Pistons do have to deploy that two-man lineup? Or do you think if the Knicks go with a Cat and Mitch front line at some point during the series and try to use that as sort of their X factor, that the Pistons might actually have something completely different in mind to try to combat that if the Knicks decide to go with that lineup?
When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. Let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. I've always had issues with underwear, finding the right fit, comfort, or just finding the right style for me. Skims changed all of that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. I tried Skims boxer briefs and I am absolutely hooked. These are perfect for my active lifestyle. They move with me, never lose their shape, and stay in place all day. Whether I'm working out or just running errands, they're the most comfortable and reliable underwear I've ever owned. Plus, the lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you're wearing nothing at all. Shop Skims men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and Skims stores. Let them know that we sent you after you place your order. Select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Again, shop Skims men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and Skims stores with Skims. Yeah, so this was going to be something I actually asked you about, so I'm sure this will come up again in the next episode. But the Mitch and Cat duo is something that's very interesting to me. I was going to ask you about it because I think I'm going to answer the question, but I think that the concerning part for the Pistons comes on the defensive end with that, because I figure the Knicks have been better defensively since the 28th, but I talked with Gavin and he thinks that it has a lot to do with maybe Brunson just not playing. And now you're seeing a lot of McBride. I talked with James Edwards about it. So we'll see if that's, which reason. It's because Mitch and OG came back, or it's because Brunson was on the floor and you had more defenders on the floor, and we'll see which one it is. But theoretically, the weakness of the Knicks have been their defense. I think that gets helped a ton if you're running Mitch at the center and Cat next to him. I think that would help the Knicks a lot. So I think that with that duo, I think it concerns the Pistons a little bit about, okay, how much better they're going to be defensively and how much harder is it going to be to score against them. When it comes to how the Pistons would counter it, the Pistons have, I'll give it a little bit backdrop on the whole Stu at power forward or the 4 position. They tried running him as a 4 primarily for the last 2 years. Last 2 years, he played most of his minutes at the 4. They tried doing this double big thing with Troy Weaver. They wanted to do this. It didn't work. It was not very good. Everyone knew that Stu was a 5. They tried doing it. He did improve his 3-point shot. He became a little bit of a stretch big last year, but now they want him just as that 5, which is his best position where he plays his best at, and it's worked. So the Pistons do have some history in running double bigs, so I don't think Stu would be completely like a deer in headlights if they did do it. However, I don't think that would be their counter to it. I think this has been my belief with the Pistons, and really for most teams when this happens, I don't believe that the way to counter a team that can go double bigs is to try to match their double bigs. Because most likely you probably don't have the personnel to run double bigs. If you just go out there and just say, oh, they have 2 big guys, we'll throw our 2 big guys out there. The only reason why the Knicks, let's say Knicks, the only reason why they can run double bigs because their 4th guy, Cat, is extremely talented. He can move off the ball, play with the ball in his hands. That's why they can run double bigs. Stu's not doing that. Like, you're not going to be able to run double bigs if your 4 is not that talented with the ball in his hands. So if you just try to match with double bigs, I think that you're losing. You're not going to out double big, like the Cavs. You're not going to out double big Mitch and Cat if you don't have the personnel to do it. That's not how you win it. I think the way the Pistons counter that is how they did counter the Cavs at the end of the year when they didn't have Cade and still won by 10 was when they allowed Ausar and Duren to stay in the paint. Ausar is one of the best non-big rebounders in the entire NBA. He's a tremendous weak side defender. He's a tremendous versatile defender, a very active defender. And unless both the bigs can shoot, you allow Duren to play on the non-shooter, and you kind of allow Ausar to roam in the paint and make rotations and try to cause havoc with that. I think the Pistons would probably try to put Duren on Mitch so he wouldn't have to guard Cat in space, which is where he's at his weakest. So if they went double bigs, you would be able to hide Duren on Mitch, and he'd be able to guard the paint somewhat. I think they probably would put then Tobias on Cat and kind of just allow Cat, see if the Knicks are going to go to Cat in the post and see if he really just obliterates them in that regard, and maybe he does. But I think they'd go with, and then they'd put Ausar if Josh Hart's on the floor on Josh Hart, and then allow Ausar to just roam defensively and kind of cause havoc off ball and kind of try to take advantage of the fact that the Knicks are playing with Josh Hart or Mitchell Robinson both on the floor. If they could theoretically take Josh Hart out and put McBride on the floor to have more spacing, that would probably work a little bit better. Either way, I think you're guarding Tobias, you're guarding Cat with Tobias, you're putting Duren on Mitch that allows him to stay in the paint so he doesn't have to guard in space. And you're allowing Ausar to either one, guard Brunson, or two, roam around the paint so you can have his rebounding and his interior presence more against the double bigs. And that allows you to still maintain your running, your athleticism, and fast breaks. If you go double bigs, you're really eliminating some of the athletic advantages the Pistons have over most teams. That's where they really thrive, is that they have Duren, Ausar, Cade, all these guys just dominating in transition, getting up the court, alley-oops for days. Like, that's where they have their best offense. If you go a little bit slower and try to go big for big, I don't feel like you're really playing into what your team's best at. So I'm interested to see. I do think that wrinkle by the Knicks, again, that is a wrinkle I think could win in the series. If Mitch and Cat really do play well and it comes well defensively, I can see that winning the Knicks the series. But I think the Pistons counter to that should not be to try to go double big, keep doing with what you're doing, and try to get out in transition and take advantage of the fact they have two big guys on the floor that maybe aren't going to keep up with Jalen Duren and Ausar Thompson if you get a stop and you run in transition.
Yeah, I think that's probably the smart way to approach it. I just got to say, I hope, I mean, it would be the most Tibbsy thing ever, but I think a lot of Knicks fans would scream in pain if they finally went with the two big lineup and Josh Hart was on the floor at the same time.
I've had so many Knicks fans. I've asked so many Knicks people about this. I'm like, can I watch the Knicks game against the Lakers, like the one that Jalen Brunson got hurt in? And Jackson Hayes was just guarding Josh Hart the entire game, and not even really guarding. He was just hanging out in the paint. That last possession of the fourth quarter before it went to overtime, Jalen Brunson couldn't even get across half court because they sent a double instantly because they just weren't guarding Josh Hart. So I'm like, does like Tibbs just refuse to not like sit Josh Hart on offensive? Like, is he that in love with them? And most people from the Knicks side have told me, yes, he is that in love with them to where he will just play them. So, I mean, he's impactful. I'm not going to say and act like he's not. He's a really good player. One of the best off-ball players. He can play, he can cut, he can rebound, he can really defend. Like, I get Josh Hart's value, but I do feel like if Tibbs is a little too tied to Josh Hart, the Pistons can try to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think he's got to just whatever Mike's secret stuff from Space Jam that he had last year, like he needs that again this year, because magically overnight Josh Hart became like a 40% 3-point shooter in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
And that it completely swung the Sixers series. I mean, they kept trying to do that and just saying, oh, we saw what happened last year against like the Heat and whatever. Like, we're just going to sag off this dude. And then he just kept making threes and kept shooting like 40%. And it won that. That was indisputably, that's what won the Knicks last series against the Sixers. Obviously, there were other factors, Brunson scoring 40, everything else, but Josh Hart being able to hit threes was huge. I got to just hope whoever waved a magic wand last year didn't lose the wand over the last 365 days and can wave it again, because they will certainly need that. But continuing on with my pressing questions here about the what I'm looking for from the Pistons and whatever. This is maybe a little cliche too, but I love cliche questions. Who's someone that nobody's going to see coming that could be the Pistons' X factor in this series? Doesn't have to be if they win, but even if they go 6, they go 7, whatever, they really press the Knicks, or maybe they win. Who is someone you think, obviously not Cade Cunningham, because it has to be someone that's a little off the the beaten path a bit, but who's someone that you think could really be an X factor in the series?
All right, so I've said for the last few podcasts on Locked On Pistons that the X factor for the Pistons is Ausar Thompson. But the way in which you frame the question, I'm not going to go with Ausar, because if it's someone that you don't think a lot of Knicks fans are seeing coming, like I think Knicks fans know Ausar, and I think a lot of Knicks fans know that Ausar is going to be the primary defender in Brunson, that he's this great defender. I think people know who Ausar Thompson is. So I'm going to go with Stu, because people know Stu, but I think a lot of people outside Detroit think Stu's just like this fighter, is not really good at basketball, and that's not the case. I think there's a very high likelihood that in multiple games in this series that Stu will be closing. I think there's a very high likelihood that he may outplay Duren at certain points if Duren struggles to play defense on Cat. If the Knicks do go, potentially 5 out, take Josh Hart off the floor and try to force Duren to guard in space. I mean, if they do that, this will not be a Duren series. It just won't be. Duren can get played off the floor in that case. He's been incredible. He's going to be the Pistons center of the future. He's been great. But his weakness, he's not very good in space defensively. So if the Knicks try to counter with that, this will not be a Duren series. However, the good thing for the Pistons is they have one of the best switch bigs in the NBA in Stu. He's one of the best rim protectors in the entire NBA. He's also incredibly good switching out on the perimeter. He's their defensive anchor. And I thought he played like 18, 19 straight minutes in this last matchup against the Knicks until he fouled out with like 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Then Duren finally came back in the game. If he didn't foul out, he was closing that game out because of his defense and his impact as a rim protector. So if someone that could come onto the scene and really show people, I'm not just a fighter. I'm not just this guy, that's this Charles Oakley prototype, I guess, that people try to portray him as. I'm a really good basketball player. I'm one of the best defenders in the NBA, and I'm going to come onto the scene and let everyone know that. I think it could definitely be Stu in this series. And I won't be shocked if he but plays more minutes than Duren if the Knicks deliver some count or certain punches that require Stu to be on the floor more than Duren. So I'll go with Isaiah Stewart.
Certainly, certainly a guy that could be feeling the New York energy too, as a guy who's from the New York area himself. So maybe an astute observation there, possibly a guy that could help swing the series. But I think that's about all I have, other than the obvious. What is let's close out on this episode. What's your series prediction? What do you think's going to happen?
So look, I have to give a little bit of explanation for this.
Okay.
Look, I am very torn about what to pick here. I'm very, very torn. And it's not because I'm host Locked On Pistons and I have a bias. I try to be unbiased as possible. The reason why I'm so torn is because if you look at the paper, if you just look at the rosters, that tells you the Knicks should win the series. Like, if you just look at the talent on the teams, the Knicks have way more talent than the Pistons. I don't think anyone's going to argue against that. They have more talent than the Pistons. They have OG. They have Mikal. They have Cat. They have Josh Hart. They have Jalen Brunson. They have a proven coach and Tom. Like, they have all of that the Pistons, they don't have that much talent. Maybe in the future, maybe Ausar and during, like, in the next few years, they develop into that talent. For sure, that could happen. But right now, those guys are better right now. So, like, you'd figure, okay, the more talented team should win. But, like, if you look at the last 50 games, like, since January 4th, the Pistons have been 6th in net rating. I believe the Knicks are 15th or 16th around there. Like, if you look at offensive rating, the Pistons are 8th. I believe the Knicks since January 4th are around 13th. If you look at their defensive rating, the Pistons are 3rd. And then the Knicks are all the way down, I believe, at 16th. So, like, if you look at the rosters tell you the Knicks should be able to pull this out and they should be able to win. They have more talent. They should be able to just out-talent the Pistons. The numbers are telling me, though, that the Pistons are on the same level and have outperformed the Knicks since January. So it's like, I'm torn. Because part of me wants to say, look, the Knicks in the playoffs, talent wins out. In the playoffs, eventually, like, the best players on the floor, they usually win out in these series. But the evidence says the Pistons should be able to win the series. So I'm going to say, this is what I'll say. I think this series is going to go 6 games. I think if it goes 7, the Knicks are going to win. I don't think the Pistons can go to Madison Square Garden and win in a game 7. I'll go with the Pistons in 6. I'll say Pistons in 6.
All right.
But it's only, look, I won't be. This is the crazy thing about it. Like, I won't be surprised if the Knicks come out and play like we talked about this a little bit before the podcast. Like, if they play up to their idea of the Knicks that they have, their potential, they can beat the Pistons in 5. Like, if they play up to their potential and play up to the talent of all 5 of those guys, they should be one of the better teams in the league. But they've lost the season series to the Pistons. The Pistons have been playing better the last 50. It's just like the numbers are telling me to believe in the Pistons. So I'll believe in the numbers.
I can't totally blame you for that, to be completely honest, even as a Knicks fan. So I'll reserve my prediction though for the next show. I will the prosecution rests here. I will let you get off the stand and
right,
take my place.
Be ready. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and get up on the stand and get ready. Everyone be prepared. We switching roles.
Yeah, but for now, for this show, thank you very much for sharing all these perspectives from the Pistons side. And hopefully this is nice and informative to all the Knicks fans out there, if nothing else.